Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to explain the programming parameter of OrbitalChamp welding enhancer and the application you can use to program the device. Let's see the parameters we can set. Start welding pulse. Always the start welding pulse half second longer than the gas pre-flow. Start delay. Set the wait time for the material heat up adequately. Rotation speeds. Divide the pipe circumference into 4 sections and different speed settings. Overshoot. Set how far beyond 360 degrees the welding should continue. Stop pulse and stop welding pulse. The stop pulse sets the arc removal point and the stop welding pulse sets the duration. Rotation direction determines the direction of the head's rotation. Gear ratio. Different heads have different gear ratios. Set this accordingly.
On the bottom of the screen there is a menu which shows if there is a Bluetooth device we are currently connected to. If not, click on the Show Devices menu. Once opened, we see all the available devices. If the Bluetooth on the phone is not turned on, we can access the system's Bluetooth menu with the right floating action button. If we are on Android, we have to enable certain permissions which can be done in the hamburger menu. Let's just do that. Here we enable every permission. Now let's go back to the Bluetooth menu. Once we see the devices, then all we need to do is click on the Bluetooth icon next to the welder name. When it turns green, the connection is established and can be seen on the bottom menu. Also, the middle of the remote controller turns blue as well. On the Settings tab, choose the welder head page. When scrolling down the upload page, you see all the parameters mentioned earlier. You can modify these in the text field in the 1 decimal place. If you are not sure about the parameter, click the Info button and read about it. If there were previous settings on your device, please click the Retrieve Previous Data button to recall them into a parameter list. If you want, you can increase or decrease the decimals by hitting the plus or minus buttons next to the text fields. On the bottom of the page, you can see there is an Upload Data button to upload the parameters to your device. There is also a floating action button that will do the same for more convenient uploads. To make the welding process easier to document and reproduce later, there are 2 more pages on the Settings tab. First, let's talk about the welder machine page. Here you can see a pictogram similar to those found on most welding machines. Every setting on the welding machine can be saved here for later use. Now I'm writing in some data for you to see how it is done. Scroll down to select the brand of the machine and enter the model. On the last page of this tab, you will find all the general information you need for proper documentation. Scrolling down reveals additional settings that are necessary for the documentation. Other parts of the application will not function properly unless the data is fully filled in. If you want to import data that has been saved previously, you can do this using the Import button at the top of the scroll view. Once you have filled all the necessary information, give the data a name and save it for later use. You can display all the parameters on one screen by clicking the Query button. The Table tab shows your saved welding parameters, and you can view the full parameter list and you can upload them at any time to the device. This also imports the other data into the application, which is useful when documenting or following up the weldings. The data can also be sorted by a few criteria as well. Let's move on to one of the best features of the application, the documentation page. It has multiple features. The first is obviously the documentation feature. But for that to be available, we need to make a welding. So let's do a dummy welding with dummy data. As you can see, this page also shows the processes in real time on the phone as well. It shows the current process, elapsed time, expected total time, sector, current, rotational speeds, wire feed speed, the current on the graph, and also a pictogram where the head currently welds. Once the welding has finished, you will see the page for preparing the documentation. Here you can assign an identifier to the welding process. The current welder head data is also retrieved from the device. If this is unsuccessful, you can select the correct data by clicking on the icon between the text field and the photo taker section of the screen. You can take a photo as well using the Take a Photo button. Once everything is set, simply save the process. Or when not needed, discard it. Beware! If you start a new welding, the opportunity to document that particular welding process is lost. When saved or discarded, we are getting back to the neutral screen, where if you click on processes so far, you will see all the processes you have saved. If you long press on any item, you will see the documentation, how the documentation will look like. The info icon shows data of the process. Now simply choose the ones you want to send, write in your email and click on send. The documentation will be arriving in your inbox soon. And you can also delete it. The application also has a hamburger menu, where you can access a few more features, like writing an email to us if you find an error, or checking the permissions as it was mentioned earlier. You can see an info page as well. There is a way to also see the Bluetooth communication as well in the terminal view. Last but not least, there is a Smartbox controller page. This page provides additional settings opportunities for the Smartbox that is not closely related to the welding itself. For example, if assembling the device for the first time, ventilate the machine by pressing the ventilation button here. If the user has that version of the OrbitalChamp enhancer that is equipped with those extensions, he can also test out the wire feeder and the alternating motor here by pressing the dedicated start buttons. When changing speed, don't forget to hit the change speed button. If you want to have the function of home retrieval enabled, you can enable and calibrate it. Let's see how. As you can see on the application, currently we have the starting position at 0, but the welder head is not at 0. We turn it with the remote controller to the actual 0 position, then we hit calibrate. Now the current position is at 0 and the machine is at 0 as well. When we now turn it, we can see the current exact position of the head in degrees. There is also a button for failed welding. Let's see an example for it.
The welding is started.
And now we make it fail. As you can see, retrieval is active, but it won't turn back. This is a safety measure since a real failed welding must decrease in heat. But with the help of this button, it can be returned to the starting position. It is important to use since it will save our calibration. Otherwise, calibration has to be done again. If you want to add gas post flow to the welding, that can also be set here on the controller page. To finish it off, if you have a remote controller that has a potentiometer for adjusting the wire feeding speed in real time, this is where you can enable it. There is a button for getting the current settings of the device, but it is done by every connection. Thank you for your attention.